Joining me now is Massachusetts Congressman Jake Auchincloss, a Democratic member of the House Financial Services and Transportation and Infrastructure Committees. Welcome. It's good to see you, Congressman. So, what's your response to Speaker McCarthy? Can you please explain to me what the wokeism is that he's talking about in finance?
Speaker McCarthy is groveling to his extreme right, as he did to get that gavel. And he is running us right off a cliff right now with this rhetoric. Top economists indicate that the United States should not be spending more than 2% of GDP to service its debt on an annual basis. We are sub 2% right now. We are not in crisis mode. Now, the trajectory is going the wrong direction. It will blow past 2% in the decades to come. And if Republicans want to have a serious conversation about budget reform, absolutely, I'm here to have that conversation so that we're not saddling future generations with unsustainable debt. But that's not what's happening right now. What's happening right now is that the White House and congressional Democrats are saying we need to protect the full faith and credit of the United States. And Speaker McCarthy is talking about cutting wokeism in the Defense Department to save us money, which I can't even interpret that for you. I'll tell you who's watching right now, though, is the president of China, Xi Jinping, and the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. Because if we rattle international capital markets, if we undermine our creditworthiness, we are going to shake much of the unity that we have displayed over the last year in standing up to authoritarianism globally.
Apparently he thinks it's woke to look at different fuels to try to protect the environment. Okay. How concerned are you on the prospect of the U.S. defaulting on its debt? How ugly could this get, and how could it end up impacting Americans?
First of all, anybody with a 401k should be deeply concerned because it will be to the detriment of anybody's retirement portfolios because markets will get rattled and we'll start to see sell-offs. Anybody who cares about the United States' global stature as we stand up to autocracy in Beijing and Moscow should care about this because it's going to undermine our status as the world's leading economy and military might. And anybody who cares about competency in federal affairs, who wants to see Congress act like grown-ups instead of see a repeat of what we saw in the first week of the 118th Congress with a near fistfight on the House floor, should care about this. This is about us paying our bills on time. If Speaker McCarthy and Republicans want to have a debate about spending, we have a whole process for that. It's called appropriations. Let's have that debate. If they want to talk about entitlements, we have a process for that. We can go into entitlement reform debate. But this is not the time. You don't play hostage with our debt limit.
Let's move on, because I'd love to get your thoughts on Republican Congressman George Santos, who's, as you know, facing calls to resign, in fact, from a growing number of fellow Republicans. But GOP leadership, that has stopped short of taking any action at all. So what does it say to you that Santos has apologized but has no intention of stepping down? I mean, what are people saying behind the scenes? What are you hearing in the hallways? What are you hearing over lunch in the congressional dining room? Do House members want or trust this person to be a part of Congress?
The focus is shifting from George Santos, who is transparently a liar, and towards congressional Republican leadership, who, if the New York Times story today is to be taken at face value, knew about this a year ago and helped cover it up, and who even now are unwilling to stand up for basic integrity in their own party, all while the GOP in Long Island and even GOP colleagues from New York are calling on George Santos to resign. The richest irony here, Alex, is one prominent House Republican said that this whole sorry affair was Democrats' fault because we should have done our homework and put his lies on full display. George Santos's fake relatives in the old country would have called that chutzpah. It's just beggars belief.
I'm going to try not to laugh. Okay, let me ask you about U.S. air travel, because this is serious. It had another major disruption last week, as you know, after that FAA system. It was a safety system of sorts. It failed. It led to a nationwide ground stop. You tweeted, a total ground stop is not acceptable. Once fixed, the FAA should be transparent about what happened and present a detailed plan to prevent it ever happening again. But the question to you, sir, how can Congress or the federal government ensure that kind of accountability from the FAA? And after this incident, and then add to it the Southwest Airlines debacle during the holidays, are you concerned about more disruptions ahead?
I am. I think it's important to parse here two different things. The first is the FAA official who made the decision to call for a total ground stop because they saw a situation they thought was unsafe. That individual or individuals made the right decision. They deserve to be praised for doing so because the flying public deserves to know that their safety will always be paramount. But now Congress has to do our job, and that means doing a full after action to understand what went wrong and what investments are necessary, potentially as part of FAA reauthorization this term, to prevent it from happening in the future. Now, we're going to have a strong partner in that. Secretary Buttigieg has been transparent, proactive, and forthcoming in describing what happened and in promising to get to the bottom of it.
All right. Thank you so much. Come see me again, Congressman Jake Auchincloss. Thank you so much for this chat. Well,